out to another episode of It's All Been Checked Before. This time, Justice. Yeah, it sounds like a CBS procedural. It sounds like a CBS procedural, but it's much better. There's a lot of blonde people running around, very blonde, healthy people. Hear what we think of the rest of the episode? Hang with us. You're here. I know you're going to do that. Speaking of things you want to check out, this weekend, back at Mad Lab, the mothership. It's All Been Done Radio Hour. Yeah! Check it out for the holidays. It's the last one of the year. You got to wrap up the year. And fittingly, on Universe Journey, which bears some relation to some of the stuff we talk about in It's All Been Checked Before, Kake's Holiday. The captain's going on holiday. So, you go on holiday, check out Kake's Holiday, do that. Speaking of which, while you're giving gifts, while you're in that mood, both. They both apply. Go to patreon.com/IABD and give us a little gift. And you're going to be giving yourself a gift. Get bonus episodes. Get our Futurama episode, our Futurama Star Trek episode. Get the extended version of our conversation about Encounter and Farpoint, which makes sense. It was an extended episode. It was 2 hours. Do all that. Make it a great gift. Let's get 2020 started now. And let's start it now with Justice on It's All Been Trekked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. If there were any justice in this world, we'd have more than just the two of us.
This is Steven.
And Jimmy-Jerome. You see what I did there?
Very well done.
I used the title. So, we are here to talk about justice.
Justice.
First impressions. We didn't do that last week. Sorry.
I think we tried to, and then we just got...
Well, I think we just didn't say first impressions.
Yeah,
I think we still gave them.
After last week, I came in with low expectations, which may be why I enjoyed this a little more than I thought I was going to. Not awesome, but I think there's some... It's an interesting episode, and that it's a thought process. There's a lot of thinking, and there's a lot of, hey, here's a bunch of sexy people. It was a good watch, is what I will say. But I got some good thoughts in, too, which I won't say it's completely successful, but it was worth watching to me.
So, to me... They weren't all that sexy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They're just not my type of people. Mm-hmm. So I kept looking like, I'm going to find one that's super attractive, and I didn't. I think McDougal's going to survive another week. we'll get to that. But, yeah, at first I was like, this is a very basic episode of Star Trek.
Yeah.
In a way we've seen a bunch. Mm-hmm. But I thought it went deeper than it usually does, and I really appreciated all the debate over what to do. It was a real conundrum, and I'm kind of disappointed there wasn't some clever resolution that satisfied both things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I thought the closing didn't do it as well as I'd hoped. Not that their resolution was bad. Just
right.
It felt anticlimactic a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted more of a... Because there is the string music, and McCarr gives a speech about what justice is, and Riker does, and
sure,
they're on the money. And I wrote down their legal system leaves a lot to be desired. I get the simpleness of it, and again, it goes with that whole idea of this is paradise, and it's very Logan's Run, and to reference a current film, Midsummer, death is just a thing that happens. If you break the law, it's very simple. If you do this, you die, that kind of thing. But otherwise, it's paradise and everything's perfect. You run a lot and you look great and you wear very little clothing. We didn't get to learn much more than that, unfortunately. But we kind of had a feel for their civilization. It was very Apple-like in a way. And there was a god there. I got off track.
Yeah, the Apple's what I kept thinking of it as.
Me too.
Very simple, childish.
Yeah.
Sexual underdress.
Yeah. And it was very short-lived at first because I thought, this is a pleasure planet. And then it turned out it really wasn't that much of a pleasure planet. I mean, I guess it is, but we didn't get into that much. For me, it is because it's a bunch of blondes. But
costume design is filthy.
It is. Okay, that makes sense. And
I think he is through... I was looking to see... he's listed as costumes for all 151 episodes of Next Gen.
Okay.
But some of them just say original costumes, so I assume... Those are just credits because of the uniform he created.
And I feel like we definitely had costumes in the original series he did that showed more skin and had to be more creative. Mm-hmm. But they weren't able to have 30 different people wear those costumes.
Yeah.
Kudos to him. We all know we're fans of him.
It looks like he just did costumes for season 1. But
okay.
I guess because he designed the uniforms, he gets credited for the rest of the series.
Okay.
Which makes sense. No, it felt like a very, very Bill Thies design. It felt like he was repeating himself a little bit, honestly.
Yeah.
This was our fashion segment. You should have.
Fashion.
So you liked the outfits?
I wrote the best in all caps, which is not the best. It's just, I think the fact that there were so many and...
I like the skippiness. I didn't necessarily like the cut.
Yeah, I thought some of them could have been better. In fact, the main girl, I thought, as much skin as she was showing, still didn't do her body justice. I didn't mean to do that, but I did it. Whereas, you know, we can think of many examples from the original series where he had to be much more creative because it was the 60s.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a sometimes less is more kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And he did it so well in the original series that he could not undo himself. And maybe it's the opposite thing where it's like, all right, you can do it, but you have to do it for 50 people. So you can't get super creative with just one costume.
Sure.
You have to costume 50 people. So yeah, they were okay. They were interesting. It was very Logan's Runny to me, and I'm thinking Brave New World too. Although I don't think Brave New World, their characters were scantily clad. They were just all in the same clothes.
They were reminding me of what's the girl with like the green hair? She was a warrior.
From Gamesters of Chicago.
That's it. Yes. Gamesters of Chicago.
That's a good call. That's a perfect call.
That's where the outfit's most similar.
Yeah, he did that outfit, and it is
quite, but similar.
Yeah, it is similar.
I think my problem with the bottom of that outfit was the same problem I had with the bottom of her outfit in that episode. It's just weird. Like, with all the revealing they are, like the pants are baggy and unattractive. The version of it.
For the main people, they were longer. There was a couple women they had running out of the shot.
Yeah.
Especially right at the beginning where it's like...
You got some butt cheek?
We're going to show you some buttocks. And I specifically wrote down that Colleen would not approve of that for the girls or the guys, because a couple of the guys had it too.
A couple of the guys you could see bulge.
Yeah. But it does establish that this is a planet where everyone's beautiful. And
I wrote down Planet Woes.
Yeah.
I mean, my alternate episode is you get together, and you're very happy.
My alternate episode was Skinamax, essentially. So, yeah, you're right. Yeah, we had the same answer, more or less.
AKA, otherwise known as the Blonde Orgy Planet.
I can handle that. As somebody said, so on the nose at very earlier in the episode, it's too good to be true. We know. And to reference back to last week's episode, I thought this might be a rip from the headlines thing. It was not. I was referencing, this was 1994, where a kid I think it was in Thailand, and he violated some law there. I can't remember if it was heroin or drug offense, and he was going to get caned or whatever. He might have just been on drunken disorderly. I looked it up briefly, but that was 94. This is obviously well before that. So
87. Yeah.
So that kid was ripping off Star Trek.
Yes.
And so was the Thai government.
The Thai government probably passed that law after watching
I bet you they did. Oh, and just to get back to our alternate episode, I did write down, I want to go to there. So, yeah.
So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Before we leave, and why this is even like less paradise for me, all the running.
You're right.
I have always hated running. I like walking. I like hiking. I like that kind of exercise. I hate running for whatever I don't even know. First of all, they were jogging. They weren't running.
Right.
So they were mislabeling
I think that's fair.
But it also just looked awkward. They did not look natural doing it.
Mm-mm.
And for people that run all the time, you'd think it would be natural.
Mm-hmm.
But before we leave fashion behind completely, did you like Wes's sweater?
That was my note. One of my other two notes was Wesley still in a sweater.
Different sweater. For sure this time. We weren't sure last time if it was different.
It was a better sweater, inappropriate for the planet he was on, but still a better sweater.
I mean, the running in that thing, you'd get overheated real quick.
Yeah.
I assume by their wear, it's a pretty warm planet.
And my final note about all that was, I felt like all the clothing, and this makes sense that it's a Bill Tees thing, and he did it in the original series. Much like people describe a book reporter, a skirt, long enough to cover the subject, short enough to keep you interested. And I feel like that Bill teases, at least for Star Trek, that's his credo.
I felt like it would have got people much more interested if we got to see Riker and Worf in those outfits.
Which I thought was where we were going to go.
And Troy?
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought we were going to go there.
Riker even said, when in Rome, and they're running around.
That's what I thought. And then the one of the girls hugs, I think it's Riker. Mm-hmm. And I think it's Worf is like, careful, sir. I'm like, careful, sir? What's there to be careful about?
I think fans would have liked to see some of the leads in it. I agree. If Picard had to put it on the beam down at the end, that would have been Very amusing. I think Worf would have just been funny in it.
Speaking of the Edoans, the Edos.
I don't know, the planet's Edo.
Yeah. So the one guy hugs Troy, and she gives him the tap, like, "All right, that's enough."
Yeah.
And I would have thought Troy would be into this, but maybe it's just like, this is just too much. I do not dig
kind
this.
of into it. I mean, her planet's pretty touchy-feely, too.
And maybe he just wasn't her type.
Honestly, that was the thing I think I would have liked to have seen that we didn't see, was a little Troy love story there. I felt like it almost went there and then did it.
And I think you raise a good point, which is we see everybody interacting from a distance. Mm-hmm. I think we could have understood the people there a little better if we could have got a little more in those conversations. Because I can't remember who it is, comes over to Yar and she's like, she doesn't exactly say, you got to hear the story. She's like, you got to get on this conversation because you hear the tail end of it.
Yeah.
And it might have been interesting to learn a little bit more about them other than the way their law works or whatever and how they handle other things.
Mm-hmm. But I was surprised Yar was so into it.
Yeah.
I think Troy was into it, but I think she was very jealous of Riker getting attention from them.
Yeah.
Riker was just totally Captain Kirk in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
And Worf, I mean, these guys had no personal space, which was... but Worf was the confusing one because where he... that first embrace, where he was really enjoying it, felt extremely out of character, and then everything after that, he reverted back to character.
Right.
So I don't know why that embrace, he went with it.
Maybe he was okay with the embrace, then he was putting on airs. I don't know. He and Riker did have the funniest exchange where he's like, he didn't say he would destroy them. What did he say?
Oh, he talked about he'd have to restrain himself when he had sex with humans.
Because your women are fragile.
Right.
And Riker's like, if that was anyone else, I'd say you're bragging. I thought that was a great exchange. It was very...
it was wonderful.
And I thought that was very funny.
It totally comes in line with what we've heard of the Klingons in novels and other stuff.
Right.
Like, you have sex with them as a human, you're going to break some bones.
Yeah.
It's not gentle. And Worf, the mother of Worf's son, which we'll meet eventually, Kalar, she's half human, half Klingon, so you have to wonder if she has some personal knowledge of that experience.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I
think Riker would accept a couple broken bones. Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's a novel, and I think this might be based on a television episode, where Riker does an exchange with the Klingon vessel, and he serves on a Klingon vessel, and the novel's set like during that time, but it's not an adaptation. Yeah. And Riker definitely hooked up with the crewman and broke a couple bones, but of course he did. Kirk would have done the same.
Yo, absolutely.
You cannot tell me that Kirk never had sex with a Klingon female. I don't believe it. I believe he did not between the time his son was dead and Star Trek 6, but other than that, either before or after, he had sex with a Klingon female.
I think so.
I wrote down that let's hope it's not too good to be true, too. I feel like that was completely unnecessary and an awful line there. Also, with them, Picard saying at the beginning, oh, they say this planet's extraordinarily beautiful. We don't need that. You're going to show us. We don't need... They almost kind of pounded it over the head a little bit. So, getting to the Prem Directive part of this... This race clearly doesn't have warp capability. So they should have never beamed down in the first place.
Right.
They should have never vacationed there. Yeah. Because non-interference is, you're not supposed to tell them about the ship and everything.
Right. I thought, it got real fast and loose.
I mean, like...
and lots of times it does, but...
My mind jumps to Star Trek Insurrection, the film, where they're observing a primitive people, sort of like these guys are, where they're not super primitive, but they're obviously more primitive. And, like, they hide in a duck blind, and they watch them. And if they go out among them, they go out looking like them.
Right. You know? And which we saw a lot in the original series, where they would beam down and
hide among them. Yeah. You don't just beam down in uniforms and be like, hey, guys.
What's up?
I mean, we didn't see the moment they first meet them. Right. And I feel like that was kind of lacking as well, like missing a part of the story. Yeah. So, then once you inform them, then just saying, you can't execute them.
Yeah, I think there would have been the Prime Directive conversation is always interesting, but it's always complicated because it always seems like
it's unevenly enforced.
Yeah, and in the original series it happened too, and it's a great concept, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
It's break it too much.
Yeah, I feel like it's used like, this is a great concept, we can talk about it, and then we find different exceptions, or not even exceptions. Yeah. I mean, the resolution of this episode makes sense. It's like, that is a crazy law and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, And the one thing I do like about where Picard's like, and we talked about the ways of the many outweigh things. It was, to me, it was very Kirkian, where he's like, nope, we're getting this kid. I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. And he did.
He was, until he told Crusher, like, I will not let them kill your son, he was not Kirk. And then he had that flash of Kirk.
Yeah.
Of Kirk would have beamed him out at the beginning. Kirk wouldn't have thought about it. Whereas Picard is more evolved, so he has to think about it before he breaks the rule. And honestly, though, I feel like if Kirk had just beamed him out, that alien god may have just, like, destroyed the Enterprise. Kirk may have come up with some way out of it because he had extraordinary luck. It would have been more of a battle episode or, like, trying to outwit the god rather than a discussion of the
Here's what
reality.
I think Kirk would have done. Maybe this is my own episode. He'd, of course, beamed down with the landing party, first of all. He'd have been down there. There'd have been all these beautiful blondes. And he would have grabbed a couple of the most beautiful and been like, beam us up. And then been like, you're going to kill 2 of your subjects? What kind of god are you? That's the way Kirk would have done it.
I don't think he would have beamed him up. I think he would have slept with him down there. I think he likes to go to her place. There was no notable guest stars in this episode other than Nora Leonhard. I guess this was like her 5th episode or 6th episode already. She plays a Science Division ensign uncredited in like a bunch of episodes. And then just in these early episodes, and then she just goes away and comes back at the one of the last episodes of the series. I don't know why. Oh. Not important, because she obviously was not notable in any way. But
so wait, this was her.
I guess she was
what
like an extra.
What she's known for, or no? Oh, you mean the other episode?
This is what she's best known for.
Oh.
She's credited with 13 episodes of Star Trek. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is her 6th episode, and we're only on like episode 8.
Oh, wow.
And I hadn't noticed her.
Wait, is this the main girl, or?
She's Science Division ensign, uncredited.
Oh, okay.
And she's also in the next one, Haven. And then she's in a couple more this season, like 2 next season, and then she's in one of the final episodes of the series. But it's always ensign, uncredited. So it's mostly Science ensign, and then next year the 2 she does will be Command ensign. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought that I guess she's like one of the extras in the original series that we never really learned about, but she's just there. Back to the main girl. Yeah, I thought her reactions were interesting, and the way she was like, oh, well, just take him. Just take him. Just break her along and run away with him. He'll just be a fugitive we can't reach.
Right.
And then she beams up, and she's really nervous about that, but then she's kneeling. I don't know. She was interesting to me. I guess I wanted a little more. I think if this was an original series episode, we would have got more of her.
Right. And we'd have had her walk off with Kirk and have a conversation.
Yeah.
With the...
Yeah.
And that's all the music I can do before we get copyright. Well, one of the problems besides their death penalty for all violations, kill them all.
But there's only one rule that violates. You just cross into a zone that may or may not be...
Right, yeah, if you're there at the wrong place, wrong time, literally, is what they're saying.
They're like, well, they said... So at first I was confused about, if you don't know where the zone are that's punishable, how do you know you're not walking in it? But apparently, what I understood more after Wes broke the law is there's a whole bunch of fenced-off areas, but only like one fenced-off area at a time is...
Right. I felt like it was like, okay, Zone A is now, do not break a law now. Mm-hmm. And then it would move to Zone B.
No.
That's the way I...
It's not a selective purge.
Right. No, well, I thought it was... The mediators get to decide whether... Which I guess maybe that's...
So that's the way I thought of it is... If you look down my street, there's 12 houses.
Right.
One of the 12 houses, if you step on the grass today... You're going to be arrested. The other 11, you'd be fine.
Okay.
But they don't tell you which one it is.
All right.
So we know that... So these people just never step on the grass on any of them. They never cross the fence.
That makes sense.
Because they don't know which one they're not allowed.
I just thought...
And so it's a supreme coincidence that Wesley just played.
In my mind, it was don't break any law in the zone just in case.
No. I think the only law was don't cross into that
Which
zone.
would make sense if their thing was... If the idea of the writers or whatever was... The way laws are arbitrarily enforced. That's the word I'm looking for. So that makes sense, which I think is interesting in the sense of, based on my law school experiences and other experiences, when I can't remember if it's Picard or who it is, talks about the death penalty. I think it's Picard, and it's like, yeah, we used to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we realized that was a bad idea, and I think the rest of this episode is very much about, and this is something I got real into in law school and still am into, and which is the death penalty, which I used to favor, to be honest, is so poorly enforced. It's so arbitrary. I guess really just like many of the rest of our laws, that's why I can't be for it. This is a political part of the podcast. But
I just see it as barbaric. And we execute people that are innocent because our system is flawed. And
right.
We get the wrong people.
Yeah, and we can do that in our death penalty episode. But yeah, there is some aspect of not vindication, but retribution for the people, and there is that aspect. And I believe that to an extent, but I cannot. There's just no way.
The only reason when I was younger, was like, well, maybe I could see it is cheaper. You don't have to pay to house that guy. But then I found out it's not cheaper. It's more expensive to execute him.
It is. Yeah.
Because I'd rather they suffer and live with what they did.
And that's
bigger retribution.
I think that's fair too. And I believe that argument. I'm totally against it.
Well, you're wrong. No,
and maybe that's where they're going with it. And from that aspect, I think it makes sense that a lot of laws are arbitrary influence, and these mediators are really just the cops and that kind of stuff. And now we're on a social justice episode. But yeah, maybe that's where we're going. And to that extent, maybe this is kind of cool sci-fi dressed up as very simplified. But yeah,
the Federation laws are super lax, and their prisons aren't what we have as prisons today. They're basically like resorts you stay at until you can leave.
Well, and to go back to Whom Gods Destroy, and I guess Dagger of the Mind to an extent too, they'd gotten rid of all mental illness too. So except for the one place in Whom Gods Destroy, but.
Well, in Voyager and in Discovery, we'll see what happens with somebody being arrested.
Okay.
And they're basically just sent someplace pleasant to hang out while they think about it. Until they're like, okay, we don't think you're going to do it again, so we'll release you. And even then, in both Discovery and Voyager, we see them take a prisoner who's convicted and let him serve on a starship again.
So, a minimum
without rank, but just that captain wants that prisoner? Sure. Put him on the bridge.
So house arrest or minimum security kind of thing. Yeah. So if you built people out of millions in a tax fraud kind of thing, that kind of prison.
Yes, except, of course, people aren't doing that anymore. Right. They're not killing each other anymore. And there's no war on drugs, and it's, it's different.
Yeah.
The crimes tend to be less brutal. Riker mentioned, was it Riker or Picard, mentioned that they've learned to find the seeds of criminal behavior early.
Yeah.
And nip it in the bud.
Sense, yeah.
So, maybe that's dark. Maybe they execute those people. They're like, he's going to be a serial killer. We're just going to preemptively execute him.
Minority Report, they can tell what's going to happen.
That's the dark underbelly of Star Trek we haven't explored.
And they admit this in the episode, because I wrote down, it's really not Wesley's fault. It's the guy that threw the ball. Mm-hmm. So if Wesley...
And the guy said it.
Yeah. So...
Well, I guess Wesley wasn't supposed to jump over to catch the ball. Just let the ball hit the flowers.
Right, and then it's that guy's.
No, if the ball hits the flowers, none of them...
Oh, because they don't go over.
Right. They just leave the ball in there until that becomes not the zone anymore.
Well, he doesn't break that law, but we don't know. Is that the only law, is you can't step over the fence?
I thought so.
See, I thought that was just the law they broke there.
Oh, I thought that's what they had explained, that you just can't step into the restricted area.
No, because you can't kill anybody. Maybe you can.
Well, I think they meant they stopped doing that. I think they just meant nobody does that anymore. So this was the only law they had left.
Oh, yeah. See, I thought they have laws, but they're...
No. We had two different
understandings. We did, yeah. So... But
who's to say who's right?
Well, and the problem is you don't get into the legal system at all. Yeah. The mediators they're judge, jury, and executioner, which literally they are, I guess. So yeah, this is saying more about the justice system.
They were just pulling out a needle and doing it right there. They weren't gonna wait.
Well, and of course they knew it was a foreigner that did it, not the local guy. So the
local guy said he did it.
Yeah.
Wes said, yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, then we're good.
Why wouldn't they execute both of them?
Because the other guy didn't cross the barrier.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting. That should be against the law too, though. But that's...
Well, these are super trustful people, so it seems like not just Wesley because he's Starfleet, but anybody would have been like, yeah, I did it. That's... it's really easy to catch. If only that worked today. Like, Trump, do you break the law? Yeah. Okay, you're impeached.
Done.
We're done.
Which by now, nope, we're not doing it.
But I'm with Starfleet. We don't lie. That line that Wes.
I
actually liked that line.
I did too.
Even though I wanted one of the people to say like, "Hey, we don't lie either." What are you being like? I'm with Starfleet. Or are you so high?
What are you saying? Yeah, that's a good one. Because they don't.
But out of context, I really liked it.
Didn't Troy say something like these guys don't know how to lie or something along those lines, or
There was some conversation about how they're like very open.
yeah, whatever they say is what they think.
Which they're so unoffensive. I don't think any of them would stand up to him and say, "What about us?"
Yeah,
but a couple of them had to be thinking it.
The other part of the plot was the whole god creature, which of course I usually hate.
So original series.
Yeah, very original series. And at first I was like, oh, I kind of like this guy because he seemed like he made sense, and then all of a sudden he didn't make sense. Like.
Well, I like that the god didn't punish him or go after him.
Right.
The god just sat back and let's see what happens.
Right, which was like the god in the animated series that Uhura, that Nichelle Nichols played.
Yeah.
It was like, this is my problem. Why don't you guys just leave and we'll be good. And let's call it even.
I mean, if the god really is that advanced, they're not going to interfere all that much.
Well, that was my thing. Was like, they're like, well, he's going to execute us because they're going to figure out we violated his prime directive. I'm like, I feel like God should understand nuance, which I know they haven't so far. I know original series they usually didn't in an animated series.
Well, in this one they didn't until Picard pointed it out.
Right. And then he's like, you know what? This is cool. I did like the way the god looked, and not the ball part, but the part of that giant structure, which was very V'ger-ish a little bit, but it was more. It was more interesting. Like, okay, I can see why they have these.
I really
powers.
wanted them to beam over there and get into.
Yeah, that would have been a lot more interesting. Yeah. But so yeah, eventually I was like, okay, this god's okay.
I liked Picard turning to Geordi too, but like, Geordi, go have a real look. Because the view screen's not.
Yeah.
And he like just ran to the nearest window.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I'm looking.
I thought from behind it was LeVar Burton standing.
Oh.
Because he looked much different than LeVar Burton from the other shot. That. And it may have just been the high def, or we were watching high def, right?
Yeah.
Or it was one of those, a much more subtle Kirk body double.
Huh.
So
catch that.
I saw it a couple times. I was looking for a third time and I didn't. But
I was trying to catch if Will Wheaton did the cartwheels or if it was stunt.
Oh, that would have been a good one.
But I wasn't sure.
That would have been a good one.
I think it was stunt, but I wasn't sure. But no, the thing about Geordi looking, I liked it in the moment because I'm like, we'll point out.
Right.
But also it occurred to me like, don't the Enterprise's scanners read everything he would have seen? Are you telling me his visor is more advanced than the Enterprise's scanners?
I agree.
I don't know. I did not. There were a few things I didn't like. I didn't like when Beverly goes to Picard and she's like, I'm frightened. And he's just like, just give me a minute. Like, later he opened up, but you don't just brush her off. Like, I just found out my son's going to be executed. Yeah. It's okay. Just give me a minute, and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
He was just so heartless, which was out of character, but then she just took it, which was out of character.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't say, no, wait a second.
I thought that first scene with her and him, I didn't like, but the second scene on the same topic, I did.
Well, when he finally said to her, like, I'm not going to let them kill her.
Yeah.
Or when he admitted, when she's like, I'm frightened, he's like, so am I.
That one
great.
worked. The first one didn't. The second one worked for me.
Yeah, him blowing
as actors and as characters
work
much better. Yeah.
The transporter chief, when they called to beam the girl back to the planet.
Oh, yeah.
He was so slow to answer and so slow to beam. And I'm like,
what?
You have an away team on the planet. You're at those controls.
Was that at the very end?
Nearish, 10 minutes out.
When the
girl was up on space and the god was coming.
Oh, the other way. Yeah. Sorry.
I was just like,
I agree. Yeah, I was like, come on.
But the away team's still on the planet. He should be like on it.
They should have had a cut and showed him like eating a sandwich and coming back to the board. What?
He's like, this is a peaceful planet. I don't need to worry about it. I thought Picard's line about the space station ship, whatever, hangs out there like a nemesis. Huh. That didn't make sense to me. Yeah. Like, that's not what a nemesis is it, right? Nemesis just hang out there so you can look at him?
A nemesis is like your nemesis.
Your archenemy.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was also the Greek goddess Nemesis was the Greek goddess of vengeance, so it was also a god who acts retribution against those who succumb to hubris.
Okay.
Maybe that's what using that word was a reference.
All right.
But to me, I'm like, so he hangs out there like a nemesis. How does a nemesis hang out? And how is that different than how anybody else would hang out?
Yeah, there's a better word there.
Yeah, I think so. Unless they were purposely trying to evoke. It was written by Worley Ford, John D.F. Black, and yeah.
Didn't John D.F. Black, didn't he write an original series?
I think so. Let me... although John D.F. Black was credited on this story as Ralph Wills. So chose not to put his name on this. And he got a story by on this, and he got a story by on The Naked Now. I don't know if they just gave him story because they were close to original series episodes.
Did he do Naked Time?
He wrote The Naked Time,
Okay,
yes.
that makes sense.
So this episode, he's also got a story by, and this isn't based on The Naked Time, so he must have actually helped write this story.
Okay.
But didn't want his name on it for whatever reason. Yeah, The Naked Time is the only thing he wrote from the original series.
Okay.
Worley Thorne, who's best known as a writer of The Next Generation, but this is the only episode he wrote.
Huh.
He also wrote 6 episodes of Fantasy Island around the same time.
That makes sense. This is very much like a episode of Fantasy Island. Everything's great. Oh, but you stepped on a bush. You shouldn't have. Yeah, we're now. Yeah,
You're done.
yeah. This reads more like, I guess, a later. The early Fantasy Island had some dark undertones to it, and then it turned into Love Boat on Fantasy Island. But anyway, that's a completely different rewatch podcast.
It occurred to me as I was watching this, they have built so many sets for the Enterprise D.
Yeah.
That recreation room, Picard's talking to Data again. We've seen that in a previous episode. And I saw, like, this game on the table in the recreation scene that was in the Crusher Quarters last episode that Wesley was touching. So I was like, that's kind of fun. But this is, like, the 12th room in the Enterprise D we've already seen. Like, I feel like we've already seen more than all of the original series.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I do too.
Because in my mind, you just think of the Bridges Transport Room Engineering, but there's so much more.
Yeah.
And they don't reuse the same ones every episode.
That's key.
The
And
end
this
of-
planet was looked like real outside places. Well, until they went inside.
They did have inside, but it looks like there were no windows or doors. It was just like open inside.
Yeah. Must have just been a giant
Although that
soundstage.
structure we saw in the background when they were jogging looked like it had windows and doors.
Yeah. I feel like in LA there's different places that are used for all these. Because I feel like the Orville went to the same place for their beaming down to the perfect planet.
As they were jogging along that path, I'm like, I know I've seen this in 10 other Star Trek episodes.
Yes. Yeah.
In the
I felt that way
coming
too.
series.
Yeah.
When Picard said to the god, if you want us to remove the colonists, just give us a signal, and then disappeared. So, are they removing the colonists?
That's what I was waiting for him to say, and they never did.
I mean, I feel like them disappearing was a signal not to.
They
Like, you don't have to.
They said, "Is that the sign or whatever?" Didn't they? Or
He was like, I wish the sign was more clear or something. And I'm like, yeah, this doesn't tell us anything.
Hey, we're not sure on that. Yeah.
I just assumed, like, okay, I guess we'll leave the colonists for now.
It was very ambiguous. Just stick with the God guy.
Yeah.
At the beginning, when the ball first comes to the Enterprise,
Yeah.
why not have shields up? There's this giant structure there.
I mean,
The God would have gone through it, but still, why not? They didn't know that's what it was until it got there.
it's funny, the god didn't know where the command deck was. The ball had to wander all through the ship to find Data.
Again, reminds me of that Superman 2 thing where Zod and those guys are crushing all these buildings, and Gene Hackman's like, Lex Luthor comes through and says, all this accumulated knowledge, these dummies can't figure out how to use doorknob. And that's perfectly for so many Star Trek episodes, including the motion picture. It's just so apt. Like, and I know that's part of the thing. It's like, oh, they're so elevated, they can't understand these simple things. But it's like, they should be able to. It makes sense, but it doesn't.
Absolutely.
I like that the explanation for why they colonized was our people like to the way we usually do it is a challenge, and we like to seat ourselves all over.
I mean,
it's not wrong.
It was our natural instinct.
It's not wrong, but
No,
I just thought that was very funny.
It was.
While we're on sexual things, when Wesley's like looking for a bat, and he asked for something about this long and this.
Yeah, it was. I thought dildo. It's a sex play.
And he's talking to the young girl, and I'm just like, how did this get on TV? And like, how did this happen? It was syndication. They let him get away with everything.
I mean, if this was on cable now, like Discovery, she'd just whip out a big dildo and be like, this?
Yeah.
And he'd be no, something firmer.
I only have a couple more notes. I actually like the Babel conversation. I think I like the button on. I don't know if I like the whole thing as much.
I think Red Spiner as Data so far might be the most perfect actor, most consistent part of the series.
Yes. Yeah. And it makes sense and people gravitate towards him, and we've talked about kind of that Spock part of it, but yeah, I think he's the most interesting and he's evolving, and yeah, like you said, it's very consistent.
But it's not, I mean, the character itself, the concept is obviously very interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't feel the other actors have settled into their characters as well as
Still
he
trying to find
immediately
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Yeah. Yep. My last note is, this is why I was specifying about when they beamed up or beamed down. So when they're beaming up in the end, and Picard's like 6 to beam up, I'm like, 6? What's he talking about? It's 7 to beam up. I was counting the blonde girl.
Oh. He's not Kirk.
I was like, you gotta take her. I was like, oh wait, no, she stays. She stays. So that was my last.
Oh man. Okay. So scale of 1 to 10, how annoying was Wesley in this episode?
I'm gonna bump him up from a 2 just because maybe it's just I didn't like the game and I didn't like him wearing a sweater when it was warm. So a 3.
Because we can't do 0, we established.
Right.
I'm putting him as a 1.
Okay.
So average of 2. Because I think he was totally not annoying in this.
Fair.
I don't think he did anything wrong. I do think he should have slept with that girl instead of just running with them. But that's my only complaint about him. Like, even when the execution, I thought he handled it with dignity and grace. I didn't think he was whiny or annoying.
Yeah, and
When he's like, oh, is the whole crew in danger? Well, then...
Right, he was doing the right thing.
He didn't say it because he's a kid. And,
right.
You know?
I did enjoy his interaction with the girl where he was kind of like, I don't know what to do with this, which...
Very teenager.
It was
just
less
do
of
what you normally do.
You're right. It was less of a I'm on another planet, I don't do, rather than I don't know how to handle this, but you're very pretty and yeah.
I think if this episode was made today, they would not have stuck the boys with him. He would have just been with the girl, and there would have been sex.
Yeah.
He would have lost his innocence.
Some kind of
And I feel like that's why Riker took him there.
That's the vibe I was getting. That's
Riker's
what I thought.
like, I'm going to take Wes so he can pop his little...
Yeah, that's the vibe I got.
Who were you annoyed by in this episode?
The God guy. Not surprising. I came around on him, but he annoyed me the most throughout the episode.
I am now most annoyed with everybody that calls Wesley boy. Worf did it, Picard did it, Riker did it, the boy or boy.
It is weird. I bumped on that too, and I didn't make a note of it, but I think I'm still amused by it. But I'm
not. I'm done. I'm so done.
I'm with you. I understand. It doesn't make any sense. It might be why it makes me laugh. But.
It was one thing when Picard said it in the first episode. It doesn't even make sense for him to do it anymore.
Yeah.
The fact that other characters are doing it. When Worf said it, it felt really weird. I'm done.
I've never
they
thought
better
of,
not do it again.
I've never thought of calling someone boy other than in a jokey way. Like, listen here, boy. Yeah. I've never thought of anybody like the boy or the girl, but I've never it just
no.
So maybe that's why it makes me laugh. But I agree with you.
The boy.
I agree with you. It's
so dumb.
Silly. It's ridiculous.
It is. That is far more annoying than Wesley himself. But I'm still not annoyed with Wesley by and large.
I'm agreeing with you for the most part. Yeah.
Attractive. I know you found somebody.
There were so many for a while. I was like, I don't know who to go with. But the main girl, she won me over. She was kind of smart, had her stuff together, and very pretty. And like we kind of mentioned, I feel like she was the least scantily clad of the scantily clad.
I'm still with McDougal. Sorry, I did not think she'd last. I really didn't. But she was blonde.
This episode is the live action version of the Laura Lie signal for me, except I think it's a better episode, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's no way anyone can be as attractive as, I'm going to call her Leela, but I could be wrong on the lead from Laura Lie signal. But
I don't know.
No one on the planet can be as attractive as her. But
when they're that simple, I have a really hard time.
That's why because I couldn't pick one out, because at first I was like, I'm just going to pick out random girl who's almost coming out of her outfit. And then I was like, no.
I've never liked...
Because there was a bunch of them. Then I was like, no, I like her. I don't know what was on her head.
Yeah.
Other than a weird wig. But
I've never gone for the bimbo type.
Yeah. That's why I don't think she was a bimbo, but I get what you're saying.
No, the main girl wasn't specifically, but the race as a whole was.
Yeah, it was...
Male and female.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Lots of himbos.
I think, in terms of gender equality, I think this episode did a pretty decent job.
I agree with you on that, because there was just as much male skin.
And I feel like the characters were similarly low-level intelligent.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was gratuitous one way or the other. I wish we had a woman here to weigh in, but I think it was pretty equal.
I thought so.
Ranking the episode, I'm inclined to put this higher, but let's...
Yeah,
let's start in the middle. Where no one has gone before.
And that was a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
Oh, that was The Traveler, right?
Yes.
It's in that ballpark? What's above that?
Encounter at Farpoint.
Okay. So it's really there. I don't know if I'd rank it above Encounter 4.0.
Put it right there in the middle. Of
Yeah.
This was the 7th episode.
Yeah.
If we put it between Encounter and Where No One, it's right in the middle.
Okay.
And I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I didn't expect that.
Our favorite.
Based on last week, I did not expect that. Or the IABD.
Yeah, I was not feeling good about it, but
I feel like it's a...
I have a few quibbles, but I liked the question it raised. I liked the way the story was told.
It's one of my favorite things. It's highbrow and lowbrow at the same time.
Yeah. No, I liked it a lot.
It's like I looked at Playboy magazine, but I also read the articles.
Next to it,
which I do.
had a thing called the internet. I was in middle school. We had our first dial-up connection. Okay, next week we're gonna watch The Battle. IMDb rankings back up, so we'll see how it goes.
All right.
Beware Ferengi bearing gifts.
Oh boy.
Captain Picard receives the Stargazer, a ship considered lost that he once commanded. So it's Picard's ship before the Enterprise.
Okay.
That he was captain of. There's a bunch of novels of him.
His previous adventures. Okay.
And Jack Crusher was served under him.
Oh, that's right.
Beverly's
that's
husband,
right.
Wesley's
That's
father.
right.
So
all right.
we're gonna see the Stargazer. If I remember right, I think it's Reliant class, but I could be wrong.
That makes sense.
I think it's an older class.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna see it,
All right.
and we're gonna see the Ferengi again because, like I said, I think they keep trying to force the Ferengi in here. Until then, though, live long.
Stay on your side of the fence and prosper.
If you don't stand on your side of the fence, you're not gonna prosper. Or
No.
live long.
Death to you.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?